to be their big day. 5 lost orphan seal pups now about to venture out into the big wide world, complete with some novel headgear. And when the moment came, for the first 4, there were no last-minute nerves. It was a rush to the open sea and a new life. The water might have been rough, but they didn't mind. Only K5 was reluctant. The sea's a big place and he wasn't sure. A bit of encouragement and a few big waves, and at last he took the plunge. The yellow hats might look silly, but they have a purpose.
What we're wanting to see is what happens to them within the first weeks of release. That will enable us to see them within groups, to see whether they're accepted locally, to see how far they move. We'll be able to readily identify them within the sea, which is something we can't do with the simple tags.
From young pups, most of their lives have been spent in the RSPCA intensive care unit in Norfolk. Storms have separated them from their parents, and they've been washed ashore, injured and starving. These pups have been found off the coast of Ireland. One of their number made it back to the sea today. The other 4 seals had waited for K5 so they could swim off together. It's hoped the public will spot their yellow hats and alert the RSPCA. Valerie Jones, BBC News.
Now back to the Trade Secretary Peter Mandelson's decision to sell his house in Notting Hill in London. He returned home a few minutes ago and he was asked if it was true he was selling up.
Yes, it is on the market. I'm selling it so that I can repay the loan that Geoffrey Robinson was kind enough to give me. Every penny will go back to paying that loan, which is the right thing to do, I think.
Will that draw a line under this whole business, do you think?
I hope so, but I'm just getting on with my job as a Member of Parliament, and I will be finding somewhere else to live. I have a very good home in my constituency in Hartlepool, and all I need is a flat in London. That's what I'm going to get. Thanks.
And tonight's main news again. The government has published its legislation for fairness at work. It includes extra maternity leave and unpaid time off for parents with young children. The Cabinet has agreed the public sector pay awards. The details will come on Monday. They're expected to be higher than the rate of inflation. The next news is the 9 o'clock news. From Jill and me, good evening. Hello there, good evening. Well, the weather brightened up quite nicely for many of us today. Some sunshine coming through, but all the time we did keep this front down towards the southwest. That continued to give little pockets of rain and drizzle right through the day. And in fact, it's this front that's going to come back eastwards again. It's already starting to pep up a little bit more west of Scotland. That'll be coming back east across most of us during tonight and tomorrow. But it's actually going to feel some very mild air in across the western parts of Britain. That feed of westerly winds could see temperatures maybe up to 12 or 13 degrees if it brightens up in any places tomorrow afternoon. In contrast, though, across more southeastern parts of Britain, I think Friday is the day when we're going to start to see that feed of colder continental air. In fact, it could feel quite chilly for many of us in the southeast during tomorrow afternoon. That's something we'll be watching closely. Now, even during tonight, we'll start to pull in those easterly winds, probably keeping things mostly dry across East Anglia and the southeast right through the night. Just a few pockets of rain. Elsewhere, after an early frost in the east, we're actually going to start to see some milder weather pushing in on that front. It'll bring the clouds picking up as well and some outbreaks of rain, possibly a few heavy bursts across the north of Britain. Maybe a bit of snow for a time too over the Scottish mountains. And then tomorrow we follow that front then. A lot of cloud during the morning. There'll be that rain and drizzle around as well. But the front will tend to push eastwards and fragment all the time. So I think there is a good chance that a good part of Britain will actually turn drier through the afternoon. And little hits of brightness. Possibly eastern Scotland seeing some brighter spell, a little bit brighter through Antrim and down, maybe some sheltered parts of southwest England as well. But essentially a good deal of cloud. And just concentrating on the southeast for a moment, here we're going to start to see that chillier southeast wind developing. Some brightness, but only about 5 or 6 degrees for Chelmsford and London. Maybe still your pocket of rain west of London. And away from the southeast corner, well, that very mild weather, 11, maybe 13 degrees in a few isolated parts of Northern Ireland, around 10 for western Scotland, West Wales and southwest England. And then for the weekend, well, we start to see some changes. We've been promising you high pressure for, well, all week. We should eventually see it building across the south. So that will bring many of us, I think, some dry weather through the weekend, but still a lot of cloud, possibly a bit more in the way of brightness during Sunday. Bye-bye.
Despite tempting and decided to award tonight's Fun and Games to Plymouth in Devon. Our contenders range from Tony Benn to Rick Stein. Join us at 11:10.
Tonight on Watchdog, BA and the half-price Concorde flights they're keeping very quiet about. Norwegian Cruise Lines and how they confiscate your duty-free before they let you on board. And what's the point of the new passports for babies when this photo is still valid when she's 5? That's Watchdog in half an hour.
Now on BBC One, North West Tonight with Martin Henfield.
During the Amateur Dramatic Society murder trial, here's how Jenny Cupid watched her victim, Kathy Lineker, bleed to death. Today, Kathy Lineker's husband described how he was frightened to leave his mistress because she was emotionally unstable. Most burglaries, most violent crime outside London, and the worst detection rate of the Metropolitan Forces is GMP giving value for money. And the real-life sadness behind a £250,000 success story. Good evening and welcome to Northwest Tonight. A jury heard today how a woman stabbed her lover's wife, then watched as she bled to death. Jenny Cupid, who belonged to the same Amateur Operatic Society